Everybody's got a price, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a pod, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price.
What's up, everybody? It's Marcus D'Angelo, and we are back for another episode of Everybody's Got a Pod. And of course, I can never do it without the man himself, WWE Hall of Famer, legend, the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase. Ted, how you doing, my friend?
Marcus, I'm doing pretty good, buddy. How are you?
I'm great, dude, and fixing to get even better because today we're doing a couple pretty important and special things. For one thing, today, as we're recording this, it is April 2nd, Wednesday, and it is the 30th anniversary of our topic today, WrestleMania 11. Holy smokes, dude. 1995 is 30 years ago now?
Wow. Oh, my gosh.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
That's how I know I'm starting to get old, because I remember 1995. So it's if I remember 30 years ago.
Yeah, wow. So if you think you're getting old, I'm I got one foot in the grave.
Yeah, it's a cute little unintentional shade there. The other reason that this episode is really important and cool is that, Ted, this is our 100th episode of Everybody's Got a Pod.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Wow.
100.
100. I can't believe that.
You and I have been doing this for 100 weeks. Now, of course, you've had to miss, I've had to miss. So we've had a couple of episodes where we've done best ofs and stuff like that. But yeah, dude, I'm looking forward to doing 100 more with you.
Let's do it, man.
Well, look, I mentioned it. The topic is 1995 WrestleMania 11, and we're going to pick up after the Royal Rumble in 1995. And in The Observer, Meltzer is pointing out that you can really see Jim Ross's fingerprints on some of the things that are happening in the company at this time. As a reminder, Jim Ross had come in to be an announcer, and then I think Vince McMahon decided he didn't really like JR's accent at first, so he's got him working behind the scenes in a personnel role.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that you can see, I guess that Meltzer could see his fingerprints on, are that Ken Norton Jr., who's a former Dallas Cowboy linebacker and at this time a linebacker for the Super Bowl champion 49ers, he's going to be coming in for WrestleMania. He's announced. And Jim is also apparently spearheading this initiative where the announcers are talking on commentary about wrestlers' backgrounds in quote-unquote legitimate sports. So, for example, he's pointing out that Diesel is actually named Kevin Nash, so he's dropping the kayfabe of Diesel, saying Kevin Nash used to play college basketball in Tennessee. He's also saying that like Man Mountain Rock was a collegiate wrestler. So, like, kind of, sort of, lowering the veil here in wrestling. And
yeah. Did he ever mention the fact that I played college football?
I don't think he ever did, because you were just an announcer at this time, so I don't think he.
Me. Tito Santana,
Mm-hmm.
And Tully Blanchard, and there's one more.
A few more from that college, right? It was
Texas State.
Yeah.
College football. Yeah.
So he could have put you over, even though you were just a manager at this time. I don't see why not. But Ted, I think this is notable because Bruce Pritchard has gone on record as saying that he hated this shit from JR, because Bruce felt that when you point out a quote unquote legitimate sport that the guys played, it kind of makes wrestling feel less important, but it also humanizes these guys that are supposed to be larger than life characters. I don't know. What's your take on it?
I don't know. I mean, personally, I don't. It's kind of like when you watch wrestling, it's entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, and it's just like, actors that are in movies. You think that it hurts them if somebody pointed out that, so and so actually played college football and before he became an actor.
Right.
Well, and The Rock. Duh.
That's a pretty big one.
Duh.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't really see how it necessarily hurts things to say like, hey, these guys are freak athletes and that's why they're here competing on this level,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I guess I kind of see Bruce's point.
He thinks it's undermining the wrestling business, but I don't see it that way at all.
Yeah, I'm with you and JR on this. I don't hate the idea of saying like, hey, this guy played at a really high level and then came to wrestling. I think that Bruce's idea is that it's just like, well, if you're saying, oh yeah, this guy played a legit sport, now he's over here playing a not so legit sport. I think that was Bruce's take on it.
Well, yeah, Bruce is a good guy, and most of the time he's right, but I don't think he's right on this one.
Missed it on this one. I agree. During the lead up to WrestleMania, unfortunately, Big John Studd is sadly going to pass away from liver cancer. Man, hard to see anybody go at such a young age. He was still a fairly young man.
Unbelievable.
Ted, do you have any stories or memories of being around Big John Studd?
I mean, the guy was a monster. He was so just Big's, I don't know if Big's a powerful enough word to say because he was really big. And for as big as he was, I just said, thank God this guy's a nice guy, because he was the kind of guy who, wanted to bully people and push them around. He could.
Yep.
But he wasn't that kind of guy. He was a pretty nice guy.
I've heard he was a good man. He was a family man, prioritized his family a lot of the time. And it's just, man, what a shame to lose. Like so many guys from your generation. I was just talking to Jim Duggan about this topic. So many guys, as you kind of look down the list of the guys who competed in your generation, a lot of them are gone. A lot of it had to do with self-inflicted stuff like drug use and alcohol abuse, stuff like that. But man, John passing away from something like that at that age, horrible.
Yeah, just crazy.
In the March 13th Observer, it's announced that Lawrence Taylor has signed an agreement to come in and work a match at WrestleMania. Man, Lawrence Taylor was to say he's a big star is a pretty big understatement.
Yeah, really.
And I mean, he's a polarizing guy too. He had gotten busted for some off-field behaviors and whatnot. So it's like he's one of those guys that was kind of largely viewed as a loose cannon and sort of fits in the world of wrestling, doesn't he?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's a loose cannon. Yeah, he fits perfectly into wrestling.
I heard somebody say once that to be a professional wrestler, you have to be a little bit crazy. Do you agree with that?
Not really. I mean, do you meet some odd or different characters in pro wrestling? Yeah. But I mean, you just go up and down the lines in the NFL and get the background stories on some of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
hear them.
I think most athletes are crazy.
Just wrestling. It's just wrestling. That's where I take offense. It's just wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I would challenge just about anybody out there. You think you can get in the ring and do the stuff that we do? Well, come on, let's see what you got.
Yep.
I mean, and we have had pro wrestlers who get into the business coming out of football who also say, wow. So,
Ted, I played football in high school. I also did a little bit of boxing, so I'm no stranger to contact sports. First time I stepped into a wrestling ring, I was like, all right, let's do this. The guy tells me take a bump, shows me how to do it, tuck your chin, throw yourself back, attack the mat, all that shit. I did it, and my first thought was, how many times am I going to have to do this in a match? Because it was really painful the first time you do it.
yeah.
It takes a strong-willed person to become a professional wrestler, doesn't it?
I would say so. Yeah.
The reported payout for Taylor is somewhere in the neighborhood of $150,000 for the match, give or take a little bit. Ted, last week you and I spoke about Buster Douglas coming in 5 years earlier, and some of the guys feeling frustrated that Buster got $100,000 to act as a guest referee. Taylor is getting that plus an extra $50K to work a match at Mania. I don't know. Does it make it more reasonable to spend that kind of money on a talent when you've got a Pro Football Hall of Famer who's coming in to actually work a match?
I mean, you could argue, but it's the novelty, I guess, is the thing. The novelty of a very well-known professional football player.
Good marketing.
Is going to make an appearance at a wrestling show. So, for him to be paid that, at that time, obviously it was the novelty. I mean, and what would be a normal crowd on a show like that? I don't know what it would be, but because he was on that card, that was packed.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the building was packed. So yeah, I mean, there's times when I think, yeah, it's deserving.
Man, good for you for being able to kind of step out of your own perspective on this, because I think a lot of the guys hear those figures and they say, like, what the fuck? I'm here working all the time, twice on Saturday, twice on Sunday, and this guy's getting this kind of money. This is bullshit. I think that that's the perspective, but you are taking more of a business standpoint where you're like, yeah, well, it did pack the building and got us some good publicity.
Absolutely, and yeah, ongoing. And again, that to have somebody from the National Football League come in and do an event and a match, in professional wrestling, it just helps the image of wrestling.
Well, it is kind of being criticized by some news outlets. Most notably, the New York Times columnist David Anderson had this to say about Lawrence Taylor participating in the match. Taylor would be accepting permanent damage to his dignity, the dignity that dominated his career as a Giants linebacker. For all his sacks, no quarterback ever accused him of a cheap shot, but now he'll be involved in a cheap stunt that evolved from his ringside presence at Royal Rumble show in January. So, Ted, man, some stiff comments there from a guy who probably doesn't even watch wrestling. What do you make of those comments?
Yeah, you know what he can do? He can go jump in a lake.
Yep.
It's like again, there's somebody again. Obviously, that person looks at wrestling as just it's not a legitimate sport. I mean, everybody knows. I mean, for the longest time, even before, and basically Vince McMahon came out and told the whole world, yeah, we're sports entertainment. So what? We're good.
1989, he came right out and said it.
Yeah. So what's the big deal? It's nothing that nobody hasn't been able to realize or figure out for a long time. And obviously it may have surprised a few fans who were so loyal they did believe it,
Mm-hmm.
But by and large, I mean, it's kind of like when you go into a movie, it's a movie. That the actors in that movie aren't really the characters that you see or who they're portraying, but if they do a really good job of presenting that character, everybody's happy.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's wrestling. So the more realistic. And that was my whole thing. It was like, and my when I come down on the wrestlers of, I don't know, I mean, I don't watch so much of the WWE, but I'm talking about the young guys that think they want to be wrestlers. You get in the ring and you're not in there just to have a tumbling act. Just because you can take a triple back somersault over the top rope and land on your feet, everybody's going to go, woo, but it's not telling the story.
Right.
It's not, I'm getting to where I think the guys anyway, in today, they think all those moves are great. And that's what they're there for. And that's not what they're there for. And I'll be honest, the other thing I think too is, I don't think I think it's hard for them because the kids today didn't, when I got into wrestling, yeah, I did grow up in it, but you know how you practice for wrestling, you wrestle.
Yep.
You get in the ring, they put you on the first match in a little podunk town where nobody knows you, and you're in the match but the guy across the ring is an established guy who leads you through the match.
Mm-hmm. Listen.
That's old school. And as time goes on, you pick it up.
Okay, guys, let's hit the pause button on the show real quick to talk about our fantastic sponsor. Of course, I'm talking about the guys that we all know and love. We're talking about BlueChew. Ever since we started talking about BlueChew here on Everybody's Got a Pod, the question keeps coming up from people, does BlueChew work? Well, look, if you're asking that question, we want you to know that BlueChew is putting their money where their mouth is by giving you a month for free. Guys, BlueChew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in a chewable form. The process is simple. All you've got to do is sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. BlueChew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. And if you want to know the best part, here it is. It's all done online. So what that means is you can forget about all the visits to the doctor's office. You can forget about having to have those awkward conversations, or how about the worst part, waiting in line at the pharmacy. Skip all of it with a little help from BlueChew. You can take them anytime, day or night, so that you can plan ahead or be ready when an opportunity arises. And what do you stand to lose? You can try it for free for a month, and we think that you're going to love it and your partner's going to love it. You could be missing out on the best sex of your life without even knowing it, just because you haven't given this a shot. It's a free service. Why not just try it? And if you don't like it, okay, forget it. You don't have to try it ever again. You know, we always say that first impressions are important, but how about lasting impressions? Build up your confidence with BlueChew, and they're giving you confidence where it counts the very most. Guys, BlueChew wants men rock hard. That's what they tell me. That's their mission. They will not stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house, till every tent is pitched, till every rod is raised. Discover your options right now at BlueChew.com. And guys, we've got a special deal for you, our listeners. Again, you can try BlueChew free. All you've got to do is use our promo code EGAP at checkout, and then just pay $5 shipping. That's it. Just go to BlueChew.com, use our promo code EGAP to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we want to thank BlueChew for sponsoring Everybody's Got a Pod. Now, Ted, during the whole lead up to this thing, Lawrence Taylor, he's going to do, there's a lot of media hype, and there's even going to be a workout in Times Square, which I believe you were present for, where Lawrence Taylor is with Diesel and some of the other folks. Everybody's there in Times Square, and it's like this really big media kind of a frenzy. But amid all of the coverage, apparently there is little to no discussion about Diesel versus Shawn Michaels for the WWF title at WrestleMania. And this is something that apparently bothered both Nash and Michaels, because they felt that the WWF Championship match should always be the main event, and instead they would go on second to main at Mania. Ted, I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Like, you know, was it the right move to put, you know, the big spectacle of LT versus Bam Bam in the main event instead of the WWF title?
You know what? I think it was a mistake. I do. And that's where I would disagree. You know, it's kind of like, here you're paying a guy, you're paying him very well to come and be a part of what you're doing. And obviously his name is so big in NFL that, you know, it's almost like admitting that the NFL, you know, carries more weight than professional wrestling.
Yes.
And, you know, I would have put them on next to last and let the main event be the championship match.
I totally agree. I think that it undermines your champion, Diesel, who they're trying to build up as the next Hulk Hogan at this time. And it's like, yeah, but he's not as big of a star as Lawrence Taylor. It's like, come on, guys, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And Ted, as far as you were concerned, though, throughout your career, does positioning on the card ever bother you? Were you ever just like pissed off about being in a certain position on the card?
Well, here's, you know, and the other way, the other thing that I understood is that, you know, okay, now, you know, back in the regional territory days, that's the thing is you'd go into a territory. Now, if you're one of the good guys, a baby face, you last a lot longer because the fans like you, you know, and they see you, you know, but it's kind of like if you're a heel, then and especially if you're a top heel, well, you get away with a lot of crap under, you know, as you beat underneath guys and you know what I'm saying? But then once you get to that main event, you know, and then you have a first match with the guy, and then you have you know, like, well, this happened, and you come back and you come back in 3 or 4 different, and then you have the blow off cage match. And then you either win that and the baby face leaves, or you lose and you leave, and you leave the territory. But now that Vince McMahon has gone global, I mean, international. Now you got to keep feeding that baby face new guys.
Yep.
And so that's why I didn't, it's kind of like, and hey, the run that I had, I think my run was longer than most
Yes.
as a top heel. I mean, I can't remember all the things I did, but yeah, I didn't, but I didn't step down to, I was never on the opening match or the second match or the third match. If I'm on the card, even though I'm not the main event, I'm the semi-main event.
Yep.
Or maybe one under that. Or it's like when me and Mike Rotunda became world tag team champions, now the world tag team champions, don't often, main event. You're not the main event.
Sometimes you'll be main event on like the B towns, but
if you're with that guy who's wrestling Hulk Hogan, if you're whatever, if that guy's on the card, then obviously you're under him.
Right.
So yeah, I never had any. I was never like I never pouted about where I was because most of the time I was where I should be.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Now, Taylor isn't the only big name coming in for the show. There's a quick clip I want to show you, and it gives kind of a rundown of who else is getting ready to come in for this whole thing. Let's have a look.
People are talking about it all over. Everybody has an opinion about this one. And to make things even more interesting, LT will be escorted down the aisle by the hip-hop rap duo of Salt and Pepper. Word. And will be backed up by his all-pro team. Check out this hit squad. Reggie White of the Green Bay Packers, Ricky Jackson and Ken Norton of the Super Bowl champion San Francisco 49ers, Steve McMichael, former Chicago Bear, now Green Bay Packer, Carl Banks, the former teammate of Lawrence Taylor's in New York, now a Cleveland Brown, and Chris Spielman, all pro for the Detroit Lions. Now on the other side of the canvas square, Ted DiBiase and the whole $1 million corporation, Tonka, King Kong Bundy, Kama, IRS, and Nikolai Volkov.
Holy shit, man! That's a lot of big names,
yeah.
and a lot of money probably going out the door, right?
Yeah. That might have been one payoff that I wasn't happy with.
I would guess that the boys were impacted.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I mean, it only makes sense. If you're going to feature guys that are stars in the NFL, or if they were baseball players, but NFL big guys, they're more for wrestling than anybody else would be. If you're going to feature them, then yeah, you got to pay them.
There is a natural crossover between sports fans and professional wrestling fans. I think a lot of people that love wrestling also love football, and this is kind of combining both worlds, right?
Yeah.
Another big name arriving at Mania is Pamela Anderson, and she was one of the most popular sex symbols in the world at the time due to her success on Baywatch. Dad, were you around Pamela at all?
Not really.
I'd heard that she kind of got her own dressing room and very much kept to herself the whole time she was there.
Yeah, I mean, and I could understand that too.
Well, yeah, you're around a bunch of dudes.
You're around a bunch of guys that are juiced up, taking steroids and everything, and like she walks by and
all their tongues are hanging out.
That and then it's hardwood.
I'd have probably locked myself away too.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to WrestleMania itself. It's at the Hartford Civic Center in front of 16,000 fans. You're going to be a big part of this event as the manager on Bam Bam's side. Of course, the NFL players are there to counter your $1 million corporation, which includes King Kong Bundy, Tatanka, IRS, Kama, and Nikolai Volkov. Dad, let's drop in on the final moments of the match.
second rope, McMahon. I cannot believe it.
He's gassed.
Lawrence appears to be hurt. Let's go to Jim Ross. I've invested in you. You've embarrassed me. You've embarrassed the corporation. I can't believe it, Bigelow. A football player beat you.
All right, there's your berating Bam Bam Bigelow there at the end. Man, LT got some pretty good reviews coming out of this whole thing, with people saying like he looked pretty damn good in the ring for a guy who's like barely trained.
Yeah.
How do you think he did?
I thought he did well. I really did. For somebody who, had never been around what we do, he did okay, so. And that's one of those things where, if like, this is my job, I do it every day. But for example, a minor league baseball team, they play in baseball, they play baseball, they play all these games, all these fans. And then they invite a guy like me to one of their games to draw more people. So I'm a celebrity guest, but I'm not a baseball player. I'm a pro wrestler. That's kind of how I looked at this. I said, here's a guy who, and of course, yes, I am recognized as one of the whatever, however big anybody thinks I am or have been. But, and against Lawrence Taylor in football is the same thing. And, I think he had just as much to do with drawing that crowd as anybody.
For sure. Sure. It was a big deal to have Lawrence Taylor there. And man, to your point, it's like, imagine you're going to a minor league baseball game for a personal appearance as the celebrity to help draw the crowd, but then they also expect you to take a at bat while you're there. That's kind of what happened here with Lawrence Taylor, where they're like, okay, step into this world that you've never stepped into before. Good on Lawrence. It's got to be a little bit intimidating.
Yeah. Good for him, man.
I noticed that Pat Patterson was in the ring as the referee there, and I know that Hogan and Warrior back during WrestleMania 6, they very, very heavily choreographed and rehearsed their match with Pat Patterson. It's safe to assume that Pat probably did the same thing here with Bam Bam and LT.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, gotta be.
Yeah, and and again, Pat's there is someone who's a very knowledgeable guy.
He's a good guy to have in the ring to talk to both guys throughout it and say, here's what's coming next.
Yeah.
Yep.
And because Pat was, Pat Patterson was teamed up with, I'm trying to think the guy.
Ray Stevens.
Pat Patterson, Ray Stevens, one of the greatest tag teams of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I had the fortune of wrestling both of them in a tag match in Amarillo, Texas. Me and Tito were a tag team.
Pretty incredible match there that I didn't know existed. Even Tito versus those two.
Oh yeah, it's just like, that's when you go in there and you just shut up and listen.
And Pat Patterson, dude, like one of the greatest minds ever in wrestling, but also a hell of a worker in his time.
Oh, a hell of a worker, and definitely one of the. It's like I don't know how Vince would have made it without Pat.
All right, guys, want to take a quick time out to talk to you about Turtle Beach. If you are a gamer like I am, one of the best feelings ever is booting up your system and staying up late with buddies, dominating the competition, and having some laughs and fun online, right? It's a whole experience, and a lot of us have built some really, really happy memories with nothing more than our console, our remote, our headset, an internet connection, and some friends. Now, on the flip side, how frustrating is it when you're trying to create some of these memories with friends online, but you or they have a headset that isn't working properly or that's starting to fall apart? I know that for me personally, I went out and I bought a headset a few years ago. It worked really well for a while, but then the padding around the ears started to fall apart, and finally, it just flat out stopped working. So unbelievably frustrating, especially when you spend some good money to be able to enjoy your online gaming experience. If you've dealt with the same thing and you're looking for the best possible solution, Turtle Beach has got you covered with the Gen 3 Stealth 700 headset. We're talking about richer audio, immersive surround sound, and a battery that lasts, get this, an insane 80 hours. If you want reliability, this is it. No more crackly mics, no more missed call-outs, just pure, uninterrupted gaming, exactly the way you remember it, but better. Okay, guys, I got to show you this headset. Right now, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. This thing is so cool looking. It's comfortable, it's stylish, and that 80-hour battery is no joke. I mean, I can feel this over my ears right now. It's like kind of eliminating all the exterior sound. This thing is unbelievable. And just touching it and feeling it, you can tell it's a really, really high quality piece of technology. The days of having your mic quit on you in a critical moment are over, dude. Turtle Beach has thought of every concern that you might have as a gamer, and they addressed it at a higher level than any other company out there. And get this, the Stealth 700 is also the industry's first ever cross-play dual wireless transmitter system. That means you can seamlessly switch between your consoles and PC with just a click of a button. And it gets even better. While being connected to your console, the Stealth 700 can connect with your phone for streaming music or taking calls at the same time. So you can listen to your favorite songs while gaming, all done with the Stealth 700. Turtle Beach doesn't just stop at headsets either, guys. They've got every gaming accessory you could ever want, and they're all high quality at prices that are not going to break the bank for you. From flight and racing simulators to controllers, keyboards, and mice, Turtle Beach is the ultimate gaming cheat code. For a limited time only, get 10% off your order with code EGAP at turtlebeach.com. Don't miss out. Stay warm and level up your game with 10% off at turtlebeach.com. Just use that promo code EGAP. Ted, I've heard this WrestleMania 11, called both the worst WrestleMania of all time and the event that saved the WWF. Now, some say that the publicity that they received helped to put the company in a spotlight that helped Vince to stay afloat. Others have called it the worst of all time due to kind of the underwhelming location there in Hartford, a lack of established big names, in the wake of the new generation era, and because, a professional wrestler is getting pinned by a non-wrestler.
Yeah.
So, Ted, do you view the involvement of all these athletes and personalities to be a critical step by Vince, or was wrestling itself enough to attract a WrestleMania crowd?
Well, again, I think if for no other reason, insurance. You're putting on, your big event of the year, like your Super Bowl, and yet you're inviting two guys from basically, and the two that you have are, big, really big.
Yeah.
Really big names. And so, I think, it's insurance.
I think that's a good perspective on it, Ted, where it's, yes, probably the wrestling is enough, but if you want to make sure that you're going to pack that building, bring in a couple of really big names.
Yeah.
I do have to ask, man, you're an old school guy, grew up in the business, a lot of respect for the business. Did you have an issue with the notion of Bam Bam Bigelow putting over Lawrence Taylor clean in the middle of the ring like that?
Yeah, not really. I mean, if it, okay, put it this way. Bam Bam Bigelow, big guy, he's supposed to be one of my big tough guys. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But Lawrence Taylor wasn't in the ring with Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the deal. It's like, it wasn't the best of the best on one side, going against the best of the best on the other side. So I don't think it was, that it hurt anything to put him over.
I've never heard anybody put it that way, and I think that that's a really smart perspective. If this is LT pitting Diesel, the WWF champion, yeah, that's kind of bearing the business. Bam Bam Bigelow, nothing against him. He was a great performer, but he was a mid-carder at this time. And so it kind of makes sense for LT to score the victory over him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last thing, I'm going to let you go, Ted. It's been a long-standing tradition in wrestling that when an athlete comes in from a quote-unquote legitimate sport, that they tend to get the better of the wrestlers whenever they come in and make an appearance. Do you think that practice as a whole paints wrestlers in not necessarily being real athletes in the minds of fans, or is it just showbiz and no big deal?
Well, what do you mean? You mean like, if you bring in a big name that's not a wrestler, he's a baseball player or a football player, and you put him over.
Pretty much. So, like, I can give you a couple examples off the top of my head. There's this one, of course. Lawrence Taylor is pinning Bam Bam Bigelow, but like Floyd Mayweather came in and knocked out the Big Show. Muhammad Ali comes in and he knocks John Nord on his ass in Mid South. There's a lot of examples of this over the years. And it's kind of actually, you yourself were once pinned by Horace Grant on a house show in Chicago. For my money, wrestling heels are there for one job, and that's to shine up the baby face and send the crowd home happy by getting egg on their face by the end.
Yeah.
And I don't think it matters if it happens with a wrestler or a personality or an athlete. The idea is that you get embarrassed as a heel, right?
Yeah, exactly. Your bark is much louder than your bite. And the thing here's the thing. And I always did this. I mean, and like again, my dad was a heel, but my dad was also a national amateur wrestling champion. But a lot of people don't know that background. Anyway, number one, you let the crowd know that you could go. You call spots where it's like, hey, this guy can wrestle. This guy can go. Now it's dependent on the character, and then but the other thing that you also establish is that the baby face is just a little bit better.
Yes.
And he's out, like you do a couple of really good things and moves and what have you, and then just seems like you can't get him. And so, he's whipping your butt and whatever. And then finally it gets to whatever point in the match where it's time to, get the brass knucks or do whatever you're going to do to heel on the guy. And then you start beating him down and you beat him down and you beat him down. But dang, you just can't beat him. You pin him and he just keeps kicking out and you're getting frustrated too. And so finally you go, okay, I'll set you. So you set him up for something. You get up on the second rope, and then when you come off, he just whang, drops you like a rock. I think that's what I do with Savage at WrestleMania 4. I can't remember exactly how I did it, but yeah, it was like boom, boom, dropped like a rock.
Your big spot was always you'd be getting heat on the guy, and when it was time for his comeback, you'd go up to the second rope and you'd grab the double axe handle. You're going to come down. He'd give you a shot to the gut, and you'd do a front flip.
Yeah, do a front flip, and then sometimes one of the other things I did, and I learned this by accident. It's like I ran in. I'm running. I charge the guy in the corner. He moved. I hit the turnbuckle. I go straight back. I go back, and I went straight up on my head. Feet straight in the air and over, accidentally. And I said, "Holy shit, that's great! I can do that again."
You must have had some serious momentum to do that for a shoot.
Yeah.
Man, Ted, I always love getting to record with you. So cool to look back 30 years to the day again as we're recording this to when Lawrence Taylor made this appearance at WrestleMania. Brother, always fun to pick your brain. And next week, folks, we're doing another Ask Ted Anything. So make sure you get your questions in on social media. We're looking forward to doing this one again. And yeah, brother, always great to chat with you.
Always glad to chat with you, and I can't leave you without reminding you and everybody else that everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
We'll see you guys next time right here on Everybody's Got a Pod.